Thank you so much, Madam President. I rise and I want to acknowledge my co-prime sponsor of this resolution, Senator Bailey. Senator Bailey and I claim DMX, as I'm sure you do, Madam President, because like I said, Earl Simmons, as is his name, was born in Mount Vernon, but we like to say he became DMX in Yonkers. And he grew up in the 35th district. He grew up in my district. He grew up in the School Street housing complex. And even with all of his great success, he remained really committed to the people of both Mount Vernon and certainly of Yonkers. And in everything that I have attended since his passing, there has been nothing but love in the street for X, as he's called. He was the first hip-hop artist to have his debut album and his sophomore album reach #1 in the same year, and his first 5 albums also reached #1. And although he was a rapper, I think that people have to remember he was so much more than that. He was a husband, a son, an actor. He was a father, a friend, fiance. But mostly he was Yonkers. He was East Coast, and he was hip hop. He was somebody who, no matter where he lived, Yonkers was always present in his soul, and he exuded greatness, he exuded pain, he talked about struggle, he talked about agony, he talked about faith, and he knew all of those things, and somehow it was always watching the evolution, watching him in lightness and in darkness, but it was always his being available for everybody, I think, that makes DMS impact so strong. Through his music and his life, he challenged us to find purpose. In his song Slippin', DMX said, "See, to live is to suffer, but to survive, well, that's to find meaning in the suffering." DMX was never ashamed of where he came from and what he went through. He spent about 5 years in another place in my district, Children's Village, on and off. And he never loved the experience because it's always difficult when you're separated from your family. But nonetheless, he continued to go back to Children's Village to help to give guidance to young people who had to call Children's Village their home. He also continued to come back to another place in my district, the Nepean Community Center, where he would offer families turkey dinners and Thanksgiving. And again, whether he was donating money or just walking down the street, giving people ice cream, I just never met anybody who hasn't talked about DMX interacting with them in nothing but an open way. I had a chance to meet him many years ago when he was just beginning to rise. He was at a music shop in Getty Square in Yonkers, and there he was, signing autographs, inspiring everybody. He had his dogs in the back, but he was just totally there and was always present when he walked in our community. We know that DMX had his demons. We know that DMX suffered, like so many, from addiction. And we know that in a large part of his life, he was criminalized for that. I'm always happy that in this chamber and at this juncture, we have understood the disease of addiction and want to believe that we can help to save lives by making sure that it is addressed as a disease. But for DMX, You know, although he left us too soon, I want to say that the job he did, the job that he did that gave inspiration to so many kids, so many young people, so many adults who have seen the same struggles and have tried to fight through the most difficult times, DMX still offers an amazing path, inspiration. You could be totally different. You could do different things. You could sound rough and raspy. You could be hard, but you could be soft. You could be so many things and never, ever, ever be all that you can be. You'll never be everything. But we who have benefited from what he brought to us in the positive will be able to make sure that his life and his legacy are remembered with all of his aspects, but also very, very fondly for all that he did. As we celebrate the life and the legacy of Earl Simmons, DMX, I'm reminded of a quote he said that all of us in this chamber could use, a reminder while we serve the people we represent. He said, quote, "You can't speak for the people unless you're able to walk amongst the people." He never failed, no matter how high he got, to walk amongst the people. And because of that, the people will never forget DMX. Thank you, Madam President.